local with coverage you can count on. This is WNEM TV5 News at 11.
We are dealing with dangerously cold temperatures tonight. This is a look at what it's going to feel like over the next couple of hours.
The weather's been a problem all day long. A combination of black ice, snow, and high winds played a role in a handful of accidents earlier today. Crews responded to numerous spinouts and pileups all across mid-Michigan.
And it could be largely the same thing for Wednesday. Chief Meteorologist Doug Moats has more now from the Weather Center. Doug.
Well, the snow going to continue, Sam, and it looks like that the winds are going to also be an issue for us. But the big story in the immediate forecast, obviously, those temperatures. 20 degrees is what the number is right now in Saginaw and Flint. 19 degrees, but it feels like that we are 5 in Saginaw and 3 degrees in Flint. When you wake up tomorrow morning, the temperatures are going to be in the teens, but the wind chill values are going to be below 0. We're going to continue to see light snow over the course of the morning hours, and our daytime highs are only going to climb to 23, right around 20 at lunchtime and 23 at 3 in the afternoon. When are we going to break out of this cold spell, and what can we anticipate in terms of actual snowfall? I'll let you know that coming up in just a few minutes.
Breaking news out of Kansas City, where 3 people are missing after a gas main explosion. Now, you are looking at live as crews try to control this situation. Officials
don't know yet if anyone was killed, but more than a dozen are hurt. Now, this happened in an upscale shopping district. The full cause of the blast is unknown, but officials do know there was a gas leak followed by the explosion, and it may have stemmed from some sort of accident with a utility tractor.
We will keep our eyes on this tonight. Count on TV5 for updates on TV5 Wake Up and also at WNEM.com.
With news of possible layoffs in the Saginaw Police Department, residents want to know who's going to protect their streets. Well, tonight some neighborhood associations say they have some ideas of their own. TV5's Andrew Keller live in the Continuous News Center right now with more on how they are trying to save our streets. Andrew?
Sam, there were about 100 people, mostly Saginaw residents, who were at tonight's meeting. They say that they're concerned about the possible cuts and the future of their own public safety. What is the future of public safety in Saginaw? That very question has some residents worried tonight.
You have a crime being committed, you call 911, yeah, they might be able to get there tomorrow.
I have yet to see him design a computer to be able to respond to a murder or a burglary or anything else that the police officers respond to, and I have yet to see one be able to put out a fire. The city's staring down the barrel of a $3.2 million budget deficit. Right now, the microscope is on the city's police and fire services.
The fact that there are certain services that the state requires us to provide, and police and fire are not 2 of them.
Tonight, residents came together at the Beacon of Hope Church to discuss possible solutions. One idea brought up by residents: cut the fat from the top. But Saginaw Mayor Greg Branch says they have, and cuts to public safety is what they have left, even though he says he knows some of the ramifications.
And every time we've retreated, things have gotten worse. It's eroded the quality of life in our city.
And because the city's at its breaking point, 36 police and fire employees could be without a job beginning July 1st.
But we can't do it without our police department and fire department.
That would drop the number of police to 55 and firefighters to some 35. There have also been talks about Saginaw County Sheriff contracting services to the city, but those have came to a standstill.
But we have to pool our resources. We have to sacrifice. We have to work together to make sure that we continue to be independent and we can grow from there.
And we're just ears and eyes, and it seems to work when the citizens get involved.
Now, one item brought up tonight, potential legislation that could bring more money to the city. Mayor Greg Branch told the audience about lawmakers looking at a law that would allow cities like Saginaw to collect more income taxes from people who do not live within the city but work in the city. Right now, Saginaw residents who live in the city and also work in the city pay 1.5%, while those non-residents pay 0.75%. Branch says increasing those non-residential rates could help balance this budget. Live and local in the Continuous News Center, I'm Andrew Keller, WNEM TV5.
Andrew, they have any numbers on what the non-residential folks who live outside the city and work here, what raising the tax rate on them could bring in?
Mayor Branch says in a perfect world it could mean $6 million, which of course that would help dash that $3.2 million budget deficit that they're working on right now.
All right, Andrew, thanks.
We've been telling you about a rash of robberies in Mount Pleasant. Authorities don't know for sure if one person is behind all 5 armed robberies, but they are hoping new surveillance video, a sketch, and a reward help nab their suspect or suspects. State police released this composite sketch of the man in the first robbery. It happened at the next door food store Friday night. Now, this is video captured of a man during yesterday's robbery at a cash advance store. Police say he pointed his gun, demanded money, and then ran away. Police describe the suspects as in both robberies as white or Hispanic, about 5'9". There is a $500 reward for information that leads to an arrest.
A 19-year-old faces charges after he confessed to vandalizing and setting fire to local churches. Police say he was under the influence of drugs when he damaged a pair of churches, the Pilgrim Lutheran in Hampton Township and First Baptist in Essexville. He's expected to be arraigned tomorrow on charges of arson and breaking and entering.
If we don't see justice here at Hurley Hospital, we are prepared to organize in Flint and across the state.
Civil rights leaders with Al Sharpton's National Action Network came to town today sounding off about a lawsuit. A nurse is suing Hurley Medical Center, claiming leaders refused to let her treat a patient because she's black. Court documents show a father requested that no black nurses care for his newborn. Tanya Battle says the hospital complied by posting a note with that request. Now, for the first time, the hospital president is speaking out and telling a different story.
The father was informed that his request could not be granted, and as a result, all nurses remained available to care for his baby.
You can watch extended portions of the press conference yourself by just going to WNEM.com.
Saginaw County Commissioners approved borrowing millions from the state to pay off employee pensions. Only one board member voted against it. The board has the okay to borrow up to $75 million in bonds to pay off outstanding liabilities to their employee pension funds. Supporters say this is expected to save taxpayers $17 million over the next 20 years.
Detroit is one step closer to a state takeover. A state review team deemed the city to be in financial emergency and recommended a financial manager take the reins.
This accumulation of items that led this team to get to the conclusion that while we all know there's financial strain on the city, there's also not an ability or a mechanism in place for the city to address it absent a finding of emergency. So that is the recommendation that was sent to the governor today.
Detroit is billions of dollars in debt and has a budget deficit topping $300 million. Governor Snyder has 30 days to respond to the findings. He has already begun compiling a list of potential candidates for the emergency manager's job.
That was the first time I actually did something like that on Facebook. I hardly ever used it for that purpose.
Tonight, a warning about what you post on your social media page. This woman made the mistake of venting her workplace frustrations on Facebook. But should you lose your job for airing your dirty laundry on a site that can be found with the click of a mouse? The I-Team's Jonathan Lowe has this special report that will have you thinking twice about logging on and letting it out.
Gripes against your boss or your job aren't uncommon. In fact, venting about your workplace while around the water cooler may be a bit healthy.
You just watch what you put on Facebook.
Anita Granger learned it the hard way. It's not just Big Brother that's watching.
What were you fired for?
Violation of their social media, Facebook postings.
It came as a shock, she says. She spent years working as a cashier for a popular mid-Michigan big box store. Due to ongoing litigation, the I-Team isn't naming that store.
They supposedly said I was one of their better ones at the time.
Granger says managers terminated her after discovering she had been posting complaints about the store on her personal Facebook page.
There just seems to be not enough beggars. They wouldn't help us out when we needed to. I have new evidence that proves what was done was not legal. Frustration after repeatedly going back into the office and telling them what was going on.
But tonight, she's not taking the firing lying down. She's fighting back.
I don't think that it was justified.
And Granger may have a recent ruling on her side as she battles back. The TV5 I-Team discovered the National Labor Relations Board, or NLRB, recently decided employers cannot censure all the social media comments of their employees. Their reasoning? If employees can say something at the office water cooler, they should also be able to say it in social media.
I'm helping employers draft and construct those policies so that they fall within an acceptable framework.
Saginaw area attorney Gary Patterson is an expert on labor management relations. He says workers may have won around with the NLRB, but it isn't exactly an open door for employees to post anything they want about their boss.
Employees are free to use social media sites to engage in what the NLRB refers to as protected activity. That is, the right to organize, join, and assist, the right to discuss wages, hours, and terms and conditions of employment.
If you take a look at Anita's February 7th post, I find it strange that when you work for a company for almost 5 years and give them everything you got, that loyalty does not go both ways. Doesn't it seem like she's talking about workplace conditions? However, Patterson says an employer may view that posting a totally different way.
Our rule is intended to assure that you're not using it inappropriately to interfere with the workplace. That is, such things as bullying, harassment, discrimination, those sorts of things. Then the NLRB is going to say termination under that rule is okay.
So what's totally off limits? Well, obviously posting a racial slur about someone at work or perhaps threatening violence in the workplace.
Employers are not legally allowed to fire us for speaking our minds.
Granger, meantime, says learn from her. Watch what you say and where you post it. From now on and in future employment, she's opting for the word-of-mouth approach.
I just think there should have been a better way for them to run the business. When you have employees that bring problems to you, it seems like you should work to resolve them.
Granger has filed a claim with the National Labor Relations Board claiming she was unfairly fired. It will be up to that federal agency to investigate her termination and determine whether she should be reinstated. In the Continuous News Center tonight, I'm Jonathan Law, WNEM TV5.
Yeah, I'm pretty disgusted with, because there are, I'm sure, more people.
She thought they would get married, but what he did was the ultimate betrayal. A Michigan woman says she is the victim of a new disturbing trend sweeping the nation called revenge porn. She's not the only one. Join us tomorrow night at 11 for Gino Vici's special I-Team report that you will not want to miss.
WNEM TV5 News next.
The Sober Pill, a brand new drug that's supposed to de-drunk you and keep you sober no matter what.
Michigan's drunk driving laws face an uncertain future tonight, but a critical vote could change all that. When it's supposed to happen, that's coming up.
Young movers and shakers in the spotlight. Mid-Michigan honors some hidden gems during the annual Ruby Awards next.
And thank you for joining us tonight. You are watching TV5 News at 11.
Serving Midland, Alma, Davison, and your hometown too. It's coverage you can count on.